Now, here at home today, the row over proposed restrictions around the sale of turf dominated business in the Dáil, with Sinn Féin calling the proposal half-baked. This evening, the Dáil debated a Sinn Féin motion calling for a halt to the ban, as it says now is not the right time. We can now take a look at some of those heated exchanges.
Smoky coal is the target here, not turf. And I think there's a responsibility. There is a responsibility on all sides of the House, including Deputy MacDonald, to get off the fence now in terms of what's necessary, in terms of the health of people as well.
We need clarity now. Don't talk in riddles, Taoiseach. Just tell us that this madcap, half-baked, unfair notion advanced by Eamon Ryan is now officially ditched.
Because they created this mess. The Taoiseach said it was like taking wine off the people in France. The turf, kind of a nice catchphrase.
I thought the aromatic flavour of wine was more berry-like, and whiskey was more peat, you know.
You will be laughing when you'll be candy.
I think you all need to relax a bit.
When you will be
You're drinking too much green tea.
To come to you first, Minister Hackett, the Green Party has an awful lot of explaining to do around the issue. They've had to do an awful lot of explaining. We saw Eamon Ryan in front of TDs today, where we heard about robust and heated exchanges on the matter. Would you agree that it's been mishandled?
Look, I think what's clear to see is that it's a very emotive issue. It's a very sensitive issue. But at the heart of this, it's about public health, it's about people's lives and their well-being, and that's where this has come from. We've had successive governments and successive environment ministers unable to bring this legislation through because of some of these sensitive issues that are being raised. But ultimately, every year in this country, 1,300 people die a year from poor air quality, and this is really what the focus should be on, about people's health.
But if you knew it was as sensitive as it clearly is, maybe some of the issues around individual use, cutting your own turf on your own land, exchange of turf with neighbours, that should have all been clarified and said from the get-go, that's OK.
Well, I suppose we're in a process of consultation. There was a public consultation on this regulations this time last year. There's a second consultation now on the drafted regulations. And again, it's important to say that they're in draft form. So this consultation is ongoing, not only with the public up until the 3rd of May. So anyone listening tonight can feed into that. We've been engaging, we've engaged with Irish Rural Link, and indeed Minister Ryan is engaged with the government backbenchers today.
So you're saying no surprise really to any of this?
Well, I'm saying it shouldn't have been a surprise, because there certainly was consultation last year, and this has been a long time in the making. Well, the public were consulted last year for an extensive phase to design the regulations. Now we're having a consultation on the regulations as they are proposed.
And they would be those communities that would be individually affected by this?
Well, it was open to anyone to engage with the consultation, but I think the important thing is that we focus on the health piece. They are still draft, the regulations, and within that there is a lot of scope for people to cut on their own bogs, to sell and gift to local communities. And ultimately we're focused here on the air quality in urban settings.
OK, air quality in urban settings is the focus, Michael Healy-Ray, and essentially this is an air quality issue, a public health issue.
Yes, first of all, to take apart your argument, Minister, you do realise that advocacy groups and voluntary groups working for older people and that are interested in protecting older people have come out and said that this proposal is completely wrong, because it will put older people, disabled people, vulnerable people, people on poorer incomes in danger, because it will remove their source of heat, and the heat is the comfort that people need in their homes. That's the first point. The second point, 2 times in your presentation you use the word draft. Because the Greens are doing you're doing so many U-turns, you don't know whether you're in a tailspin or you don't know your heads from your elbows at this stage, because you've said there a number of times that, well, this was a draft, it's a consultation. That is not, no. That is not what Minister Ryan said. He came out and made it.
He has accepted that the language in the parliamentary question was inaccurate, and that he has accepted that, and I think that's fair to say.
I didn't interrupt you, and I'm just going to make the point. What he said very clearly, we will impose a ban. Now, he forgot to consult with the other 2 people. He's like, he might think you're running this country, but you're actually not. You make up a part of the government, but like, if he saw after your own departments and if he minded your own business And if he didn't come along with half-baked ideas, you have done more damage for environmental issues because of making a mess of situations like this. And that is what you've done.
I want to ask Pippa Hackett about that. So you're saying that you're alleging that there was no consultation and the other coalition leaders didn't know about that. Is that the case?
Well, no, there has been consultation for a number of years now, and as I said, this has been an issue that we have tried to bring in.
And the Taoiseach were in the loop on this.
Success, absolutely. And there are other groups who are advocating, because of the air quality. The Irish Heart Foundation, for example, are advocating strongly about these issues. Now, I do want to make the point, and you do raise a valid point, and I accept the point about people absolutely being, challenged by this issue, and we're absolutely cognizant of that in government, that people will be facing difficulty. So that's why the proposals as they stand at the moment are allowing for, Turby rights are unaffected. That's very important. People can at the moment in rural areas and in small villages will be unaffected by this.
All right.
So the vast proportion of people will be unaffected. Again, it's focused on the urban setting and the difficulty. I mean, you look at even towns in your own constituency. You've a town like Tralee, for 30 odd days of the year has air quality that's below the World Health Organization. So people are going out into their towns and they're inhaling pollution.
They'll be cold if you'll have your way.
Ciaran Mullooly, I mean, you're in a Midlands community. You'll be very familiar with the tradition of turf cutting. What do you make of this and this argument that it is about public health, and it's something that has to be done because smoky coal is being banned, and that ban was introduced in 1990, but then you have all this other legislation, environment ministers not doing anything about it in the past, and it's all come to bear now.
I think what I hear speaking to people over the last couple of weeks, Claire, is very straightforward. The health argument, there is none. They're clear. It's not good. It's not good. Turf is not good. Burning of turf is not good. But the problem is in rural Ireland, particularly in the Midlands, in counties like Offaly and Laois, Longford, Westmeath, they thought this argument was being dealt with. 3 years ago, we had a court case. We were before the courts. We were told you couldn't do this. The larger components, the big players, were being told at that stage the end is nigh. But then the last couple of weeks, all of a sudden, the smaller people are being told.
But there's still commercial turf cutting taking place.
They've been told they will need planning permission for anything other than 30 hectares, over 30 hectares. And they were told that 3 years ago. And there's a process at play there. But what's happened in the last couple of weeks is the smaller person. It is, as Michael Healy-Rae has referred to, the older person, perhaps the widow or the widower, who are relying on a friend, not even a relation or a cousin or their granny, it's not to be their granny, a cousin who will provide them with a bag of turf over the year.
Won't they get that? But won't they still be allowed? But won't they still be allowed? That's what Eamon Ryan is saying. That would be okay. That won't be a problem. That's what the Taoiseach was saying.
I'll give you an example tonight. My uncle lived in a place called Healy-Ray in County Longford, and he cut turf and he sold it. And it's about 8 kilometres from Longford town. Healy-Ray has less than 400 people living in it. Longford town has 10,000. Surprise, surprise, he used to sell or give a bag of turf to a few people in Longford town. I asked the question tonight, can he do that next year? Could he do that next year under what we've heard in the last couple of days?
Can he?
Well, Longford, if it is a town of 10,000 people, will be subject to the smoky coal ban as that size of a town, and will have been for a number of years now. So any town over 10,000 people is already subject to the smoky coal ban. So Tullamore, Killarney, Tralee, those sorts of towns already have that in place. So
that's a no.
In a way, well, yes, that is a no for that.
The difficulty is, and it's very well referred to tradition and to DNA. This is a particular person who, say in Longford town, a lady of a certain age who has got this turf all her life from this source at this price. Now, whether you like it or not, if you take that away, you are talking fuel poverty in her situation. She cannot heat the home without that, and we haven't thought about her. We've thought about the big people over the last 3 years, but we haven't thought about her.